Hello everyone, we're here today. My name is Simon Shanella and this is Chaitanya, and we're going to go over our class project and show you exactly how we did it step by step. The first project, to start the class project, we need to have a VirtualBox installed. Since we will be using virtual machine to do the entire project, now I'm going to open the browser and I'm going to Google VirtualBox. One of the first options, as you can see here, downloads for VM VirtualBox. That's where we're going. And now we're going to hit the download and then we're going to install it. And you're going to see everything that we do step by step. It's just going to take a second to do this. As you can see, it doesn't take very long, but most of the steps on here that normally take a long time, we are going to speed up a little bit, so you won't have to wait through the whole thing and watch a whole bunch of it. We have VirtualBox installed, and now we're going to open it up and show you what the dialog box looks like. And after you install it, this is what it's going to look like. Now we will be downloading the virtual hard disk from Floodlight, the official website, to save onto the computer. As you can see, we're starting from scratch from Google. We're going to do a search just like anyone else would. And now you can see the link that we go to. It's the first result that's not an ad. Now we're on the VirtualBox website. And we're getting started. Installation guide. Scroll down a little bit. And if you're using Windows, which we are, we're going to use that version. Click on Floodlight Linux VM. Now scroll down just a little bit more. And at the top here you can see you may download here. It doesn't take too long. We have the zip file downloaded in the downloads folder. I'm just going to use the same one to extract the contents. As you can see, this is the one we downloaded. Pretty straightforward. We're going to extract now. And you can choose to extract it to wherever you prefer. We're going straight to desktop. We planned ahead and we've already had this file downloaded, so it's asking us to overwrite it, which we don't need to. It's not going to ask you that, so we are just going to go right on with the next steps. And the next steps are we're going to start to create the virtual machine in VirtualBox. First we're going to click on New, then we're going to click on Expert Mode. And we have the expert mode open already, but I'm going to show you guys again just so you can see what it looks like. We're going to click on that now. And now we're going to go into a few more details. We're going to enter the name of the machine. You can name it whatever you prefer. We're going to go with Floodlight today. We're going to choose Linux because that's what we're using. Now you definitely want to have at least 3 gigs. So that's what we're going to bring our bar up to right now. Now you also want to use an existing virtual hard disk. That's what we're going to click on. Then you click on the yellow file here. Go to the next step. And then you can see Floodlight Mininet is there. So just make sure you click on that and open. Now that we have all the settings where we need them, we're going to click on the Create button. Okay, that little error message that you saw pop up was because we already have a virtual machine named Floodlight. So we're going to change this one to Floodlight 2 and Create. And then you see it come up here. And then you just have to open it and click Start, which is this green arrow. It usually opens pretty quick. It's going to go through a process of opening. And okay, so it doesn't take as long as your desktop does to power up, but it does take a little while because it has to configure some stuff. And now it's coming up here. So you see it's not a very long time. So now that we have the machine started, we are going to look at the README file, which is useful information. Let's check that out. Okay, as you can see, there's a bunch of useful information here that you want to go over to make sure you understand everything that's in this virtual machine. And you definitely want to expand the window to make it easier to see. And so you just want to go through here and familiarize yourself with each section. As you can see, you can see where it's installed. You can also see a few other pieces of information, where the terminal is. So we're going to move on right now. And since we are computer engineers, we will open the terminal option because that's what we prefer. And that's what you can see now. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to change the directory to Floodlight using command. And you're going to see the command type out here. So you just have to copy that and put it in. Okay, since we all have all the files in Floodlight, after changing the location, we have to type in the command cache ant. All the files are built into a folder name target. Okay, it's just going to take a couple seconds to build. And here it goes, build successful. That's a good sign. Okay, so this is an important piece of information here. Just make sure that all your lines match up what's going on here. Okay, as you can see, I just highlighted a section, and this is the path where Floodlight was built, as you can see. And we're going to move on to the next step. Now that the build was successful, like you just saw me highlight, we're going to check the Java version to make sure it's one that's compatible. We're going to put in the command now. Quick and easy. So you see Java version is highlighted 1.7.0_65. Now we're going to move on to the next step, and we're going to run the Floodlight program. We can do it in two ways. One way we can use is using Eclipse, and the other is from terminal. Since, like I said, we're computer engineers, we like to do everything the hard way. We will run it from terminal, just trying to make it look a little cool and a little bit different than other people that are going to be using Eclipse. The command to do that, I'm going to type in now. And if you type it in the same way, you should get the same results. Here you go. Alright, now we have a bunch of lines flying in. The line we are interested in is the one which says listening for switch. This is very important, and we're going to use that a little bit later. And you're going to see why. This is the port that it's listening on. Okay, now we're going to open a new tab. There are a couple different ways. One way you can do it is you can push Control plus Shift plus T. That'll open a new tab. But you can always also just right click and then open a new tab. Now we're going to virtualize our network using Mininet. To virtualize the custom network, we have a Python file with configuration written in the file with the name tuple.py. It's .py because it's a Python file. Now we're going to put the command in that we already typed out because we're very prepared. And you can see the file there that I was just mentioning. And whatever you build your topology, you're going to name the file, and you can see where that goes. And now this is the password you need for Floodlight. As you saw from the README file, that the default password is just Floodlight. So you can do that now. And it's not going to show it on the screen. That's why I mentioned it again. Okay, as you can see, everything that it's doing with Create Network, and it all matches up with the topology that we were given in the class project. I actually have the diagram that we were given on the assignment. I'm going to bring it in to show you because I have it open right here anyways. So as you can see on the adding links line, you can see between host 1 and switch 1 we have 10 VPS, and then in between host 2 and switch 1 we have 15, and then between host 3 and switch 2 we have 15 also, and then between host 4 and switch 2 we have 5, just like in the diagram. And as you can see, switch 2 and switch 1, in between those two links you can see 20, and that's the bandwidth between all the connections. Now we're going to test the network using ping all command. That's just going to take a second. As you can see, we have good connections between all the hosts. 0% were dropped. All 12 packets went through just fine. As you can see, we've got the network all set up with the bandwidths in place, and we just did a ping all. So with the networks in place, that was question number 1 from the assignment, and with the ping all that we just did being successful, we have question number 2 completed also. So now we are going to do question number 3, which is we're going to open a browser. Right now, we're going to open a link. You're going to be able to see that. We want to go to Internet. We're using Firefox. Okay, this is the link that I'm putting in now. And this is for question 3 on the assignment. Okay, so this gets us right here. And we're going to go to topology. And now we get an illustration of what the topology of the network we created looks like. And we don't know why it moves around like this. It's kind of hard to make it look like the picture in the assignment, but as you can see, we've got 2 switches, we've got 4 hosts, and they're connected just like in the diagram here. So it looks good to me. It just moves around kind of funny. But you can see the IPs are very simple to remember, and we're going to be using those a little bit later. Okay, so the completion of this topology, it answers question number 3. So now we're going to go back. Well, we're going to close the browser because we don't need it anymore. And now we're going to do the command iperf to test the bandwidth between each of the connections that we made in our topology. So we're going to put in that command, and we have to test between each of the hosts. And we're going to do host 1 and host 4 first. So as you can see, we already typed that in, and you can see the bandwidth comes out to 4.78 and 6.66. And then let's look over here. We had 10 megabits between 1 and the switch, and then 20 between switch 1 and switch 2, and then we had 5 between switch 2 and H4. So we couldn't get any more than the weakest link, so it bottlenecks a little bit between switch 2 and host 4. So that explains why our speed was so low. Now we're going to go on to the next test, which is going to be another iperf command, but this time it's going to be in between 2 different hosts. We're going to do host 2 and host 3, and we're going to run this test, and we're going to see what the bandwidth is going to look like. And as you can see, we almost have 15, because between host 2 and host 3 we have switch 1, and then between switch 1 and switch 2 is 20, and between switch 2 and host 3 is 15. So the smallest number there is 15, and that's what we get from our test, and that's what we would expect. We're going to do a couple more just to make sure everything is as expected. So we're going to do another iperf command between host 1 and host 2. and then test that. Now, as you can see, between host 1 we have 10 and 15, so we expect around 10. And as you can see, our results show that we are at 10, just as expected. So everything seems to be working out so far. So we're going to move on to the last test between two of the last hosts. We're going to do between host 3 and host 4 and see if those come out to what would be expected. Just like on the first test, we had to go through, we had to go between switch 2 and host 4, which gave us a limit of 5. And we're doing the same thing again between host 3 and host 4. So we're going to come up with the same results of being limited at 5. So that confirms that our topology is just as the diagram shows, and we're getting good results, and that confirms question number 4. Okay, for question number 5 in the assignment, we have to set up a firewall and enable it, but to do that we need a command called curl, and so we're going to set up, so we're going to update what we need to with this command here so that we can get curl. Okay, we're going to let this run through. There's just a couple other commands to go along with this before we can set up our firewall. Okay, so it looks like it's done. Okay, now that that's all done, our package list has been updated, and now we should be able to go straight into installing curl, which we're going to do now with this command. Now it's going in. See, done and done. Upgraded. One newly installed. Good, good. Take a couple more seconds. And everything looks good. So we should be able to continue on to question number 5. We'll be enabling a firewall. We're going to set up connections so that the network that we created can communicate between some hosts and not others. So this is our magic file that we created, so we don't have to type all this stuff in again. So we're going to copy it and paste it in, as you can see that we're doing now. This is the command that we're going to put in to enable the firewall, just to set it up so that we can put in some restrictions between certain hosts. Okay, and status is success. So it looks like we have a firewall in place, and now we have to just set up some rules. So we're going to grab the first rule here. Okay, so now we're going to paste it in. And as you can see, the MAC addresses, the one ending in 2 is for host 2, and the MAC address ending in 1 is for host 1. So we are enabling communication between those two hosts, just like the class project description says it should. And rule is added, so it should be in place. And should be successful. Now we're going to copy the second link that we're going to enable between two hosts, between host 2 and host 1. It seems like the same thing, but we have to enable communication in the other direction. So that's what we're doing now. Great, and the rule is added, so that should work also. Now we're going to move on to the next one, which is going to be between host 1 and host 4. And it looks like that rule was added successfully also. We're going to move on to communication in the other direction, which is from a host. Okay, and you don't want to see us do this over and over again, so we're going to skip ahead to when we have all of these pasted in there, and then we're going to test our firewall. Okay, so now we've skipped ahead, and we have all the rules copied and pasted in, and they're all added and looking good. So we should be able to complete our fifth question from the assignment, which requires us to prevent communication between host 1 and host 3, and also prevent communication between host 2 and host 4. So now we are going to do the same ping all command that we previously did in other steps, and we're going to see the results and confirm whether or not the firewall that we set up is preventing communication between the hosts that I just described. As you can see, there is an X showing up here, which is indicating the blocking of certain communication, which is a good thing because it looks like our firewall is doing what we set it up to do. And as you can see, the results are still coming in, and they should confirm, and there you go. Exactly as we expected and hoped, there were only 8 packets out of the 12 were able to get through because a route from each host was blocked, as you can see by the X, and that confirms that our firewall is preventing the packets that we want blocked from getting through, and everything's working great. So I think we are successful and we are complete in our project.